All right, welcome back. 10 in the Head. As always, Devil's Cut leading us in. I love that band. Make sure you're checking them out. They're doing an East Coast tour right now. Nick Faber, as always, here to host 10 in the Head. We have a very special guest with us today. Fantasy Football Insider, NFL Draft Enthusiast, Editor-in-Chief at BreakingFootball.com. If you haven't heard of him, get out from under your rock. Jonathan Valencia, good to have you on, bud.
What's up, Nick? Happy to be here. I like that East Coast shout out.
Yeah, baby. representing. Hey, man, if you ever go back home, that band will be traveling. Make sure you're checking them out.
Yep.
Let's get into 10 in the head. We got 10 topics, tight ends, and real quick, John, just for anyone who wants to look up who you are real quick while we're talking over these tight end questions, where are they going to find you at?
You're going to find me on Twitter at JohnValencia_WIB.
Make sure you're following him. I know I do, and there's great tweets going out left and right.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Hey, my man. So question number one. Are you drafting Gronk in the first 2 rounds? And I'll start this out by saying, I think so. I'm not going to buy him in the first round, but in the first 2 rounds, if I see him in the second round, look, I mean, in 2015, Gronk scored 90 more points than the number 10 tight end, where the number 1 receiver scored 13 more points than the number 10 wide receiver. In 2014, Gronk scored 103 more points than the number 10 tight end, where the number 10 wide receiver scored 103 more points than the number 56 wide receiver. I'm just not going to push Gronk outside, especially with all the reports coming in saying that there's no limits, he's healthy, he's ready to be a Gronk this year. I'm not going to just take my chances on a streaming tight end where I'd much rather take my chances on a 15th ranked wide receiver than a second ranked tight end, in my opinion. Give me Rob Gronkowski in the second round. John, what do you say?
I mean, you make a good case there, but I can't take him that early. The health, like you said, the reports are saying he's healthy, he's ready to go, but I feel like that's said about every player in training camp around this time. But like I said, you just can't trust that health. He's just such a polarizing tight end that if he plays 16 games a year every year, of course, maybe even first round I consider it. But when you have other top tier tight ends like Travis Kelce, ADP right now of top of the 4th round, Jordan Reed, top of the 5th round, I think you get better assets that early rather than Gronk, and then you can still get a premium tight end a little bit later.
I get the premium tight end. I feel like Jordan Reed's injuries are almost just such as substantial as Rob Gronkowski's. Reed's already lingered with a toe injury this year in reports, and then Kelce just doesn't score enough touchdowns for me. So that's why I would say get him in the second round. But Valencia likes him later, likes passing on him in the first 2, getting still a prime tight end later. Let's keep going here. Question number 2 here is pretty yes or no. Are you taking Zach Ertz in any drafts this year? For me, it's absolutely hell no. I'm not going to take a guy that will get me 700 to 750 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's a streamer tight end at best, not someone who has potential to be a stud. I mean, there's more weapons in Philly, which will then take away opportunities for Ertz. And just a little bit of a background on Zach Ertz. In 2016, he scored his first touchdown in Week 8 and his first 100-yard-plus game in Week 11. In 2015, his first touchdown was Week 11, and his first 100-plus yard game was Week 14. Look, I'm not going to draft a tight end that's not going to score any more points than 40 receiving yards in the first 8 weeks. Now, at that point, I'll let someone else draft him, get frustrated with him, and I'll be signing him at come week 7 or 8 and get the November, December games out of him. But in my opinion, I'm not drafting Zach Ertz. John?
I haven't drafted him yet. I've done 2 drafts in Dynasty League and a 16-team PPR. I haven't drafted him, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. The way I play my tight ends, I usually have my draft strategy overall is just play the board, get value, best player available. Last year, Ertz, I think, finished as tight end 6. Right now, he's being drafted as tight end 12. And with Zach Ertz, I feel like we're always waiting on that breakout year. Oh, this is the year he's going to break out. He's going to put up huge numbers. But I don't think that's ever going to happen. Although I do see, even with the little weapons you added, Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, you drafted some rookies, I think he'll be a more steady producer. I think I'll have a handful of touchdowns, maybe 700 receiving yards again. So if he falls to me in 11th, 12th round, I still need my starting tight end, I'll take a flyer on him. might be the Eagles fan in me, but I don't think he's a bad play this year.
Spoken like a true Eagles man. I love it. I love it. No for me, yes for John. All right, question number 3 here. Now, are any rookie tight ends going to finish inside the top 5? And in my opinion, it's no. Unfortunately, I like OJ Howard a lot. I think he's going to be a stud in years to come, but I'm not buying in on him this year. Ingram's not going to have enough volume, in my opinion, to get anything more than just a streaming tight end. But watch out for David Njoku. I mean, he's on a team that has Brock Osweiler slated as their starting quarterback, who made C.J. Fedorowicz a pretty notable tight end, in my opinion. And they got McVay there, but he's behind Njoku. And the rookie could very easily pull a Barnage on us, get us over 1,000 yards, 6, maybe 7 touchdowns, and possibly get him into that number 5 spot. I'm not going to call for it, but if there was one of the rookie tight ends that I'm thinking is going to have a breakout year, give me Njoku. John?
I'm going to say no as well. I love O.J. Howard a lot. He was my top-rated offensive player this past draft. I think I have 6 overall in the whole entire class, but he's going to be splitting reps with Cameron Brate. And then I love David Njoku as well. He's my starting tight end right now in my 16-team league. But you just really can't trust the rookie tight ends. Rarely does a rookie tight end make a fantasy splash. And then you factor in, you have Gronk, Kelsey, Olsen, Eifert, Graham, Walker. These guys, I didn't even think about Ingram when originally I was trying to answer this question, but yeah, I just think there's too many guys in front of these rookies, and like I said, typically you don't see them have that productive year. Hunter Henry was kind of a rare case last year.
Yeah, I agree. Henry blew up, and that was fun to see. Spare me on the rookies. If we are trying to get a late round pick, look for some sophomore players. They're going to be good. Austin Hooper to mention one, but. So both of us agree, no rookie tight end to finish in the top 5. That doesn't mean not draft him, just don't expect top 5 numbers from him. All right, so question number 4 here. Will Hunter Henry's fantasy points improve, digress, or stay the same? In my opinion, I have a feeling that he's gonna improve. And that's bold to say for the amount of stats that he had last year. And Gates won't be suspended for 4 games. I mean, they did draft Mike Williams. Who knows what's going on with that? Or at least I don't. But just watch out for Hunter Henry to just light up the field. If he can stay healthy for 16 games, I can see more of a 10-plus touchdown season, maybe the same in yards. And I'm not gonna say he's gonna improve by a healthy amount, but improve his stats he will with more touchdowns. Phillip Rivers, I've been calling this for all offseason. I love the Chargers offense, so I have a feeling they're going to score more points, and Hunter Henry will be able to, move forward with those. But that's my opinion. John, what do you say?
I'm agreeing with you there. Like, as you said, Phillip Rivers, I think he's the most underdrafted quarterback right now. That
Absolutely.
offense is a complete powerhouse. But I do think Henry's going to improve. They have Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. You don't know how their health is going to pan out. They're both not really off the good starts. I mean, Williams isn't at least, and Allen just isn't really trustworthy. But last year, Hunter Henry, stat line real quick, 36 catches, 478 yards, 8 touchdowns. Those touchdowns are nice. I think he could definitely get into double digits this year. I can see 50 catches, maybe around 600, 700 receiving yards. And I think he's going to gradually take over that Antonio Gates role as he played probably 5 years ago when he's in his prime, and Rivers was just heavily targeting him. I think Hunter Henry is going to emerge as Rivers' top weapon this year if Allen and Williams don't play all 16 games.
Right. And if Henry can maybe not become the new Gates, but if he can slip into what the Gates role was, he has a lucrative career ahead of him. Like, that's going to be phenomenal. Also, something else you mentioned real quick. Yes, Phillip Rivers is the most underrated quarterback in my opinion right now in fantasy. I've been trying to get him. His first week he's going to be playing Denver, I believe, at Denver. Don't lose sight of what you think will happen 16 games through just because a 1 week bad outing. And I'm not going to even hesitate to say that he could have a bad outing to start the season, but just wait. Phillip Rivers will be a stud by the end of the year in fantasy point relevancy. But I agree. We both agree. Hunter Henry, he's improving. Go draft him. I got him in my dynasty league. I love Hunter Henry. All right, number 5. is Jack Doyle really going to be the real deal this year? Everyone is on the Jack Doyle train, it seems like. We are expecting, it seems to be, huge numbers. Basically, I guess, in my opinion, we're kind of expecting what we expected from Kobe Fleener last year. Now that scares me a little bit. And you know what else scares me is for the whole offseason, I wasn't worried about it, but we're getting pretty close to the start of the season, and Andrew Luck still hasn't thrown a ball. Like I just read a report today saying, don't panic, no reason to fret. Luck will be fine. But it's now getting to the point where T.Y. Hilton's dropped a couple on my rankings, and I'm starting to think that Doyle might be good for this. Draft him. Luck comes back, starts week one, can't throw it to Moncrief and Hilton accurately, finds himself dumping down to Doyle first 3 weeks. Positive games for Doyle. Sell high on him there while Luck gets his confidence back, hits Hilton, hits Moncrief down. Doyle's stats start to go down. So in my opinion, he could be the real deal, but what I'm doing is I'm drafting him and looking forward to selling him high after the first couple of weeks. John?
Oh, definitely sell high on Doyle. If you have him in Dynasty Leagues right now, I'm selling him right now. But yeah, you would have to think that he's going to be more of the real deal, I guess you would say. But like you said, I have the exact same thing written down in my notes. I think we're expecting way too much from him right now. I was looking at his numbers. He's a guy I'm not really too familiar with, but I was looking at his numbers yesterday, and he had a really good stretch last year between like weeks 3 and 6 or 7. But then you look at the last 7 weeks after the bye week, he only posted one double-digit fantasy performance in PPR leagues. That's really not getting done. And then like you said, I think Luck will traditionally relies on Hill a lot, that deep ball, and I think Moncrief will play a bigger role. And there's Philip Dorsett, he's another guy that I'm hoping for that breakout year. But I think Jack Doyle's ceiling is probably like going back to 2014 when Kobe Fleener had a solid year in Indianapolis, but I don't think Doyle's really anything more than that.
Yeah, I agree. And like when everyone is all in on something, that tends to make me hesitant about it. I've been targeting Doyle, and I will probably continue to target Doyle. But as we both mentioned, sell high on him. If you get Doyle, sell high. He could be phenomenal, but his ceiling really is limited. So sell high, Jack Doyle. So question number 6 is a fun one. 10 of the head, adding a little new additions to 10 in the head. We'll just see how we'll just say that. We have a guest choice for number 6. I'll ask the question. I'm gonna let John answer it. I'm gonna I guess stand up for what he doesn't agree with, and then I'll let him go on about why he wants to take this side of the bet. Give him a little bit of time to think it over. So the question is, who's the number 1 PPR tight end at the end of the season? And John, your choices are Rob Gronkowski, or you can take the field. Who do you like?
That's an easy one. I'm taking the field all day.
He's taking the field. So I'm going to tell you why Rob Gronkowski is going to be the number 1 PPR tight end. And it's a lot that I mentioned in the first question. Gronk is a beast. There is no stopping him except for injuries, but everything seems to be stars are aligning right now, and I think it's ready. I think it's time for Gronk to really just bust out. He had 15 games 2 years ago, 15 games the year before that, if I'm not mistaken. Sat out only because in week 17 because the Patriots didn't need him. Gronkowski is literally the man that Brady will look towards the most. Cooks is there, and Cooks should do great, but they don't have the chemistry. Edelman really created that chemistry with PPR, but that's nothing in comparison to Gronk and Brady's bro love. You just can't match it. You can't beat it. Gronk for the number 1 PPR tight end, and I don't want to get into my bold prediction, but I think by a little bit. John, why you like the field?
I like the field. There's a lot more players to start. You have Kelsey, Reed, even Olsen. They could all top him. Even if Gronk plays all 16 games, you never know. But I hate to base this argument on health and injuries, but I don't know. I just have a funny feeling. I just can't trust it. And even if he does play 13, 14 games, the Pats' offense is loaded. Like you mentioned, Brandon Cooks. They haven't had a dynamic receiver like that. I'm not comparing the two, but they haven't had a receiver of that caliber since Randy Moss. Then you factor in Julian Edelman, Chris Hogan, Amendola, that loaded backfield. Dwayne Allen, he could probably get a good amount of reps in those two tight end sets. And I just don't feel comfortable predicting Gronk as number one tight end this year.
That's tough. That's tough. I like it. There we go. So Valencia's taking the field. 10 in the head. Nick Faber taking Rob Gronkowski. We'll come back to this at the end of the year and see who has to pay up. So question number 7 gets back to 10 in the heads. As always, questions. Number 7, as always, bold prediction, tight end style. Let me go back to someone I've mentioned a couple times this episode. In fact, we just talked about him last question. Rob Gronkowski. My bold prediction for Gronk is a little bold, but it's something that is easily obtainable. I'm saying Gronkowski outscores the number 2 number 2 tight end, not wide receiver, number 2 tight end by 30 plus points. 30 more points than the second best tight end you'll draft. I'm not going to even predict who the number 2 tight end is, but it doesn't even matter. Gronkowski is going to be the best player in fantasy football in relevancy to where you're drafting him. He is, and in comparison to the other players at his position. So give me Gronkowski to just blow the rest of the tight ends out of the water. 30 plus points on the number 2 tight end. What do you say, John?
My bold prediction, I'm going to go with, I'm going to change it up a little bit, but it's Eric Ebron, and I think he finishes as a top 5 tight end.
Woo!
So the goal is being drafted as tight end 14 right now. You're a Lions fan, so I'm not sure how you'll take that. But looking at last year, he scored at least 10 points in more than half the games he played in. He increased his if he increases his touchdowns, I think it's in the bag. But he's only 24 years old, and he was his top 10 pick 3 or 4 years ago, so the upside is there. And he's making strides. So over his career, every year, he's become a more focal point in that offense, and he's increased his targets, catches, receiving yards per reception, and catch rate every single year. And his hands were a big issue, but like I said, his catch rate's been going up. So, and you look at last year, you got Kyle Rudolph finishing as tight end 2. You have Cameron Brayton, Dennis Pitta vying for top 5 tight end slots. So I think Eric Ebron, top 5 tight end this year. What do you think?
I think you know the way to my heart. That's a phenomenal prediction. Ebron is doing something that I like to focus on a lot, and that's looking for the trends. What's trending upward? Is almost every stat line going upwards in your first 3 years? And if it is, that's someone you need to be paying attention to, and that's exactly what Eric Ebron's been doing. He was drafted 1 pick before Odell Beckham Jr., so as a Lions fan, I need him to catch some touchdowns.
Just the touchdowns. If he can secure 5 or 6 touchdowns, yeah, I think it's slam dunk.
And with Bolden out, that leaves 8 touchdowns to be somewhere. And red zone targets. I mean, Marvin Jones is a good red zone receiver. Golden Tate's small and he can she's shifty. He's shifty receiver. He can get around. But you're going to want Eric Ebron. And Stafford loves hitting his tight ends. So I love it. I love that pick. Eric Ebron, bold prediction. Rob Gronkowski, bold prediction. That was a good one. Going into question number 8, and as always, question number 8, it's a toss-up. Tight end style. Are you drafting? So you're determined to get a tight end to this round. The top, 4 or 5 players that you wanted aren't there anymore. Are you going with Martellus Bennett or Delaney Walker? In my opinion, this was kind of tough for me, but I'm going to say Martellus Bennett. And the reason why I'm going with Martellus Bennett is he's playing with Aaron Rodgers. Now, Rodgers doesn't make all of his tight ends phenomenal tight ends. In fact, there's not many tight ends that played in Green Bay that can say that they were a top fantasy tight end. Cook was injured last year. He played in 10 games. But when he did play, he seemed to have quite the chemistry. And I feel like Martellus Bennett, who's already been doing a ton to reach out, before training camp, he was doing a ton to reach out to his Green Bay teammates. He's coming from Tom Brady. He knows how to win. And he's going to just bring that extra element into Green Bay that's going to give Aaron Rodgers just one more weapon. And I'm not saying Bennett's going to be unbelievable, but I can see a top 8 tight end year out of Bennett. Walker, he's consistent, but I'm just kind of waiting for the injury bug to snap to get him. It's hard to make predictions like that, but I'm taking Bennett. Maybe more of a gut prediction. John?
Bennett is definitely tempting, and I had a feeling that's the route you were going to go. But even Delaney Walker, just because he's a safer choice, as you said, he's more consistent. Marcus Mariota, even with the additions of Eric Decker, Corey Davis, Marcus Mariota just loves those tight ends. They're such a crucial part of Tennessee's offense. And like I said, Walker, his TD share in Tennessee, I think it's still going to be high. I think he's going to lead the team in touchdowns. Corey Davis, he might have those growing pains to start. Eric Decker has been getting rave reviews from camp, but he's coming off a serious injury, even though he's had the whole year to rehab. But even Delaney Walker, more consistent. He's a starting tight end every single week.
Yeah, Mr. 16. I mean, the guy just doesn't miss a game. It's unbelievable. There you go. So we got a little debate. Bennett won, Walker won. Let's see who wins at the end. All right. So question number 9. And we're sticking with our toss-ups. Tight end style. Rookie, OJ Howard. We highlighted him a little bit earlier in the show. Or the guy who everyone wanted last year, didn't perform, Kobe Fleener. I'm going to say Kobe Fleener. I've mentioned him a couple times. I like him as a deep sleeper. I think he is now going to be primed for some solid games with New Orleans. Breeze loves his tight ends. Like just because Fleener didn't produce as well as we wanted last year, he was still a relevant tight end. Had a couple good games, and Breeze will throw to him. You don't have Cooks in the picture anymore. Sure, you added Ted Ginn, but that's not going to take away from Fleener's targets. He's gonna see 7 targets a game, hopefully. Hopefully make the most of 4 or 5 of them, 50, 60 yards a game, and a touchdown or every other. That's kind of what I'm seeing out of a weekly Colby Fleener route. Not great. Maybe has a chance for a couple games, but in comparison, OJ Howard, I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing 7 targets a game, 3, 4, 5, 6 a couple other times. There's just a lot of mouths to feed, and Winston's still young. He is still young, and I just don't trust that he's going to be able to hit OJ Howard as many times as he wants. So, for me, Kobe Fleener in this toss-up. John?
I'm gonna agree with you there. I originally, I really, really wanted to go with OJ Howard. He was my boy this past draft. As I said, he was my top offensive player in the entire class. But Fleener, especially when you look at the ADP, I don't know if we're factoring in here, but regardless, you look at OJ Howard. He's going at the end of the 10th round. And then Kobe Fleener is going in the 14th round. That should not be that way. As much as I love OJ, he's a rookie. Rookie tight ends don't always have that fantasy impact that we all hope. Cameron Brate is still there. I feel like we're all forgetting about him. I mean, he's not the most dynamic tight end, but he still put up points last year. He's still a focal part of that offense. And he might even get more first-team reps than OJ Howard, who knows. But Fleener wasn't all bad last year. I feel like we're just giving him this bad rep. But he had his moments. I mean, he started off pretty slow, but he was pretty solid down the stretch for New Orleans. And then they lose Brandon Cooks. They're going to have to replace all those targets, all the receiving yards. I think he's going to pick up a good share of that. And as you said, Drew Brees loves his tight ends. You go back to 2015, Ben Watson at, 35 years old, put up a career year. So just the possibilities for Kobe Fleener in his second year, he's in a little bit more, be more comfortable with Brees and that offense. And I think he's going to surprise a lot of people and definitely outplay that 14th round ADP.
Agreed. Ben Watson was he finished number 7 in the PPR tight ends that year. Jimmy Graham, we all know what he was doing in New Orleans. Breeze is going to hit Fleener. Don't be afraid to get him. Maybe even if you just want to start your year with a streamer tight end and you don't have all the confidence in Fleener, he might be a good one for the first couple of weeks. Unfortunately, I don't know their schedule immediately. I don't know how tight end favorite it is, but he could be a good one. I'm definitely drafting Kobe Fleener. I've mentioned it a couple times. It looks like we both agree on that. So we come to question 10 for 10 in the head. As always, it's one of my favorite ones. It's when you get your pencils out and you start making some asterisks next to some players that might not even get drafted, might be drafted very late. Our late round flyer tight end edition. For me, ASJ. Austin Safarian Jenkins. It's funny, John and I did a show and it just didn't work out. And I said everything that I'm about to say in that one, and I'm just gonna straight up repeat myself because this is how good I feel about ASJ. He's not drinking anymore. He's cut 25 pounds. His quarterback is Josh McCown, who made Gary Barnidge an extremely fantasy relevant tight end, an NFL relevant tight end, making great, phenomenal catches. Everything seems to be lined up for ASJ. He's the reports coming out of camp are that the receivers just are not looking up to par, which means it's just going to be more targets for Safarian Jenkins. The team is not great. The offensive line is not great. All of that leads to quick dump passes to the running backs and to, that's right, the tight ends. So for Safarian Jenkins to find himself mentally prepared than before on a team that is going to need a solid outing from their tight end position. I like Austin Safarian Jenkins as a late tight end for anyone who's trying to wait to get one or get a backup in case they get Gronk, like I say to, and then maybe get ASJ in one of the last rounds, and you'll be good. You'll be set to go for the year. John, what do you got?
I love the Austin Jenkins pick. I think he's a guy very similar to Eric Ebron. But for me, I'm going to go with Max Williams, and I think this is a guy no one, not a single person talks about. But going back, I think it was a 2014 NFL draft. He was the first tight end taken off the board. And then you look at the Ravens tight ends right now. Dennis Pitta just retires. Parker Gilmore just suffered an injury. And I think Max Williams, when you look at the roster, he's the most talented tight end on the roster. And just his combination, he's like a Heath Miller type, I think. I think he can be that steady contributor. And if you take him with a later round flyer and he's putting up 10 points a game, regardless, I think that's bang for your buck right there. He has that long catch radius. He's athletic. He's big. I think he's a mismatch nightmare. The Ravens, assuming Joe Flacco's healthy, they're going to throw the ball probably around 500 plus times again. So I think that'll give him plenty of opportunities.
Would you stick with that if they make a signing tonight to bring Gary Barnidge in? You stick with that?
That's tough. I think I will just because Max Williams is my boy. I'm actually writing a bold prediction piece right now, and my bold prediction for the Ravens is that Max Williams leads all the tight ends in receiving on the Ravens. So I'm going to stick with it regardless.
Nice. I like it. I like it a lot. It was a great show. We had a great guest. All tight ends. Your favorite position to talk about, I know. John, again, thanks for being on. If one more time, just in case anyone didn't catch it the first time and want to go find you, where would they be looking?
You can find me on Twitter at JohnValencia_WIB. And check out BreakingFootball.com. Tons of content on there. Nick has some stuff on there. He just released his PPR rankings. And there's a bunch of other fantasy football content for you guys to check out.
It's a great website. If you're not checking it out already, then you're missing out. The editor-in-chief of BreakingFootball.com, John Valencia, again, thanks for being on. If you want to check out 10 in the Head, we're on YouTube. Go subscribe. We're on Facebook. Go follow. Click the C first so you make sure you're not missing a single moment of 10 in the Head. You can go on Twitter. 10 in the Head, and my personal Twitter handle is at NickFaber1229. NickFaber1229. Just now, we're starting to put all our episodes on SoundCloud. You can go to SoundCloud, 10 in the Head, and make sure you listen to them there. I appreciate you listening. It's been a great show. Can't wait to have you back, John, and thank you all for listening.